Okay, welcome to the node.js uvwasi team meeting for June 7th, 2023. Before we get started, is there any news that anybody would like to share? Okay, if not, I will move on to the agenda. Let me see. The first thing that was tagged for the agenda is WASI Preview 1. After you read or ignores cookie argument. I think that one is, I don't think we have any updates this week on that one. I guess we're still, Colin had said he was going to try and find some time to take a look, but hasn't gotten to it. So it's sort of blocked on somebody who has access to an M1, so no update. The next one we had, if there was any announcements or anything new on uvwasi to report, and sounds like and I'll ask again, is there anything that we should add to that issue?
I guess it might be worth it to mention in that issue that I think it was 17 or was it 18 version 0.0 was backported to node 18. Not sure if that's valuable to people, but I did see that those did come through on the node repo.
Main branch updated to include v0.0.118. Right, okay, that's good. Let's add that in there. So we're now up to date. Okay, let me just say. Okay, so moving on, the next one is implement four stubbed out socket methods, number 200. I think, Oscar, you've been looking at that one.
Yeah, no update there from me. I've been absolutely swamped with work.
Okay. And I guess changes to the WASI spec and snapshot preview 2. That one, I don't think there's been any update either on that or any work on that. I think we're still kind of waiting to see what more falls out of preview 2 before doing too much work on that front. And that takes us to the end of the agenda. So I guess, are there any other things that should be on the agenda that we should chat about, or other topics that we should cover this week?
I didn't add the linkable library stuff to the agenda, but I have made progress on that locally.
Okay.
I'm now, at least in my testing, I've generated the package config and the CMake find files. So making decent progress there. The thing that I need to still figure out how to do is, or that I need to find time to do is actually link it into like, I'm just going to use Whammer as the example, since that was where I was trying to do this. So I just need to link that together and make sure that those files are working correctly. I don't have a good way to like write a test harness for them, because it'd be like testing CMake outputs. So yeah, I'm gonna try to link those things together, make sure they work, and then I'll be able to submit a PR.
A simple test that we could have in the repo, I guess it would depend on building the library, but it could then like just try and make sure you can open the library and call one of the methods or something like that.
Right, so it would need another CMake harness that was separate from the CMake that we have, so that you install it as like global, and then you can find that package for like some other C code that tries to link it.
Yeah, I was thinking more of just like it would require some like another C binary we could build, which links against the shared library and run that. Like, it would maybe be like the simplest thing of saying it. It could maybe say, hey, we're gonna. I mean, maybe I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but it could actually say, let's from that wrapper load the shared library, and then somehow use it to run our unit tests.
Mm.
Does that make any sense? Maybe not, but like, you know, it could at very least it could load some WASM code and make sure you could run it using the shared library.
Well, uvwasi isn't a WASM runner though, right?
Right,
So
yeah,
this is
okay,
why I
yes.
was
Yeah,
linking
no, that, yeah,
this-
good point. Yeah, but on its own, you're right. It's not a, right.
Hey,
Yeah, like that's why uvwasi is a nice test bed because they have a CMake build process. I can link it in there and
Yep, yeah.
make it work, right?
Yeah, okay.
Like,
Yeah, no,
There could be a reverse test where we actually pull in uvwasi and build it with our linked library and then use that.
right.
We could do
Yep.
that, but
Yeah. Yeah, okay. No, I was thinking of it backwards, so. I was just thinking of like, how do you use the shared library? You gotta load it and call some methods, right? Okay, well, it's good to hear you're making progress on that, and then PR should follow, I guess, soonish, right? I'll say next little while.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
No, it's just trying to find the time and trying to not feel burned out on work stuff and all that. So
Yeah.
we'll
hard
have
to
to
balance.
we'll have to see how all that kind of falls together, but hopefully like sooner than it would have been otherwise.
Right. That sounds good. I guess along those lines, I don't know, like Oscar, would you mind if I set an invite for us to just get together to see on the Stockit subs, like what you already have, and if there's anything that I can push forward, like if you've got the framework done, great, and maybe I can look at an implementation. If not, that something else. Is that could you spare some time to do that?
Yeah, we could probably do that. Sometime next week is probably better for me.
Okay. Let me just look at the calendar just to say, like, is any day in the week better or worse?
So this time Wednesday would work for me.
Okay, so today is Wednesday and it's 2. Unfortunately, next Wednesday I'm out exactly in the middle of that time. Does that time on Thursday work?
I can make it work on Thursday.
Or like Monday or Tuesday at 3? Like I'm
Thursday works at this time.
okay. Okay, so I'll send an invite for Thursday at 2 and we can just think on that. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other topics worth discussing or chatting about?
yeah, I wanted to make a comment about the thing you guys were talking about, Blaine and you were talking about.
Yep.
I don't know if I completely followed what kind of testing you're doing, but I did want to report that I'd mentioned in the past that I was going to try to look at linking up libv8, which is, you know, a sort of a WASM interface for V8. It's going to link that up with uvwasi so that I could have a tool in which that I could not only test the uvwasi, that the uvwasi implementation is correct using the WASI test suite, but also that I could benchmark the V8 codegen. Okay, so I am pretty happy because I think 98% done with that. Actually, 96%. I don't know. I have it working, and I'm like, so that's what I'm happy about. It's a CMake based project, so it pulls in uvwasi as a CMake project, and the one thing that I don't have super well wired up in CMake is how to build libv8. I know how to do that with a make file, and it's a little you know, there's a lot to do to get that built, right? But I do know that once it is built, I can link those things together and I have a binary that works and can run like WASM modules from the command line, sort of like you do with like a standalone runtime like WASM time or, you know, one of these things, Whammer, something like that. I say all that because it sounded like you guys wanted to do some testing or something that might relate to this. And I was hoping to get some feedback on what I'm doing and see what other people think, see if other people can use it. I know I'll use it, but I'm just sort of throwing it out there as a useful thing that people might want to try.
So one thought that comes to mind, so basically that will end up running, you said the WASI test suite, like there's an external WASI test suite that's published.
Right. I was hoping, yeah, that I haven't done that yet, but now that I have the binary that actually links libv8 and uvwasi together, I can take the modules that that are in the WASI test suite and run them with this binary. And if I get the right responses, then yep, we get thumbs up. We pass the WASI test suite with uvwasi.
And I think we talked a little bit about this, but remind me, can you do the exact same thing with the node binary that already includes uvwasi, or is it?
You know, you might actually be able to. I think, yeah, I think Colin was pointing that out and I was like, yeah, cool. Yep, you probably can, but also I'm interested in benchmarking. So
Again, I mean, and I'll ask just asking naive questions, but Node has V8 in it. So would it be different, I guess, to run it under, I guess? What's it? Just help me understand the difference.
Okay. I think if you wanted to run the WASI test suite with Node, you could. You'd need a JavaScript layer that, so you'd sort of set up a JavaScript driver.
Yeah.
And that would create a new WASI structure and would compile the module and instantiate it with the WASI structure, and all that glue code would be in JavaScript.
Yeah.
And I think that would work, and you could probably run the WASI test suite or whatever. And that actually probably is the simplest thing. My ulterior motive here is benchmarking, though. And when you're doing benchmarking, having the JavaScript stuff in the way is a, you know, can you really trust the results you're getting? Because now there's a whole JavaScript runtime that could influence those results. And so that's why I was trying to get away. That's what this tool is trying to get away from, is no JavaScript.
So why do you need V8 then? Sorry, I guess because the V8 is what you use to run the WebAssembly.
Yeah, V8. So libv8 uses turbofan from V8 to compile the WebAssembly to native machine code.
The only reason I was asking is, like, I do think it would be interesting, valuable to have like that WASI test suite run regularly in the WASI repository. And I was just exploring, like, what's the easiest way for us to do that, right? Is like, you know, because you want to, like, functionally having that, say somebody does a PR to uvwasi, and one of the things that runs happens to be a job, and that job will run the test suite and say, hey, did we break anything? No, great. That seems interesting, right?
Yeah. I think the simplest way is probably that like use JavaScript in Node to set everything up, and that probably would be a 200-line JavaScript file.
But you'd have to rebuild all of Node, now that I think it through. If you wanted to test a particular version, like your PR, you'd have to rebuild all of Node, which takes a long time. So that actually is not as simple as, like, in the situation that you're talking about. If you built libv8 once, and then
you can reuse it,
checked in, and then we would use that along with the latest version of WASI. That would be an easy and fast, right? And then even if it's just like a manual build of libv8 every so often to update it, that's not crazy. So
Yes, I have thought a little bit about that. Like, it would be great to have the shared libraries from libv8 to just live somewhere as artifacts. I don't think that exists yet, but maybe you guys have more connections with, you know, people who might be interested in doing that. I don't know.
Two things that, so it needs to be a shared library for your purposes, I guess.
I don't know if, no, it could be a static library, I think. Yeah, it could be static, I think.
Because I would be in, one thing that you could might there. I go back to Node because there's published binaries, easy to get at. It may in fact expose most of the stuff in Node itself. So
Okay.
you might be able to write, like certainly in a add-on, you can make direct calls to whatever's in V8.
Yeah.
So one approach might be you use the node binary, but instead of starting JavaScript, you write yourself a native module, which is in C. All that gets started is like the JavaScript wrapper that says require that module. When that module gets required, it does a bunch of code, simply a C thing. And so you get your like no JavaScript in the middle.
Yeah.
But you don't need to build, I guess that still gets us back to, would that end up using the UV? It wouldn't necessarily, no, you could then use another UV as long as the symbols didn't collide or something, right? Like you could link into your native module the latest version of libuv, or if it's actually available through Blaine's work as a shared library, you could load that shared library. Right? Because in terms of somebody publishing a libuv for you, I don't think that's going to happen. So it's either like you manually build it yourself and it gets stored somewhere that the job could use it.
Well, I think the libuv part, libuv and libuvwasi, rebuilding those takes seconds, so that's not actually a big deal. The rebuilding libv8 is the long tentpole.
Yeah.
And that's the one where you sort of might want to cache it. But I don't think all the symbols would be in Node, because libv8 the libraries that libv8 depends on will be in Node, right? Like the base library and all that stuff from V8. But the libv8 has some extra symbols where to provide this WASM interface, right? So it has new module make, function make, store make, all that type of stuff that would likely not be present in Node. I would guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I think you could you could probably dump the symbols and figure it out. But that just a random thought. Like the other one is like, at least for say, in the context of what I was describing, which like actually running the test suite on a regular basis, piling it offline and storing libv8 somewhere wouldn't be impossible, right? Like that's even something we could check into the repo. Maybe we don't want to have it maybe depends on how big
on a branch or something
under the test, like under the test directory in uvwasi, you could have like a precompiled version. Maybe it only works. It gets a little messy because it only works on one platform or whatever. But
I understand Andrew's desires, but also like if we're like talking about like, oh, we need to build this thing that takes 8 hours to build or an hour to build or whatever, and then we need to cache it, like we'll just use Whammer, right? Like it builds in 2 seconds, and it embeds uvwasi. So like
that's a good
we
point.
We don't need to build V8. Like there are other WASM engines because all we're doing is trying to test that our integration is correct. So we don't need to spend a bunch of time building an entire crazy engine when, like I said, the iWASM core from Whammer builds in seconds.
And that would let us run the WASI test suite as well.
It's just
Yeah,
it's a
okay.
WASM engine.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a better approach for just running the WASI test suite is
Okay.
using Whammer. Well, either
Um,
using Whammer or running or doing the node shim JavaScript shim thing. Like you could do the JavaScript shim thing right now without any building at all. But
Well, except for the JavaScript shim thing would end up testing the version of uvwasi and Node, not
oh,
in
that's
Node.
right.
your
Yeah.
PR side.
No,
of
you're
it.
right. You're right.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you
the
want
work that
to
I'm
you want to
doing-
choose the uvwasi that gets linked in.
Right. And that's because Node ships the static version, it compiles it into the binary itself, right?
Yep.
And the work that I'm doing is going to allow us to dynamically link it. So once I get that work done, and once I also finish up my PR to Whammer, you'll be able to like build Whammer using a globally installed version of uvwasi. And that means that in our CI, we just build every PR, we just build the uvwasi, run cmake install that installs it globally, and then build Whammer with that shared library, and then we can run the test suite.
Right, and a
Cool.
test in the uvwasi could be pull down the latest version of Whammer, build the shared library, set up your paths, run the WASI test suite. So I still think, Andrew, the stuff you're doing in terms of like how you run the WASI test suite, that's something I don't know if I don't have any insight into, and Blaine, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a test runner. I documented how the test should be run because the other contributors who dumped a bunch of tests up there. They have this whole Python runner thing, and maybe you guys want to just reuse that, and that would be great. But if you can't reuse that for some reason, I did document what is required, and I can send you guys a link here. And that at least would give you an idea of like, oh, this isn't that complicated.
Okay, so well, that's good. I think it's good to work through what we might do in the for the uvwasi testing at some point. But it sounds like it doesn't necessarily align exactly with what you're doing. So I mean, I think building the V8 yourself is probably just, and storing the copy is what you should do.
Yeah, I just mention it as, hey, there's this thing I'm working on. If it helps you, good. What will definitely help you is the WASI test suite. That's for sure. Whether using Whammer or Node. If this V8 thing helps, great. But yeah, the benchmarking is really what's driving me to do this here. So.
Right. Okay.
I put
Anything
the link.
more we should discuss on that one?
I put the link in the chat window for the, how to run the WASI test suite stuff.
Okay, I just pasted that into our minutes as well. Any other topics we should chat about? If not, then thanks for everybody's time, and we will see you in GitHub in a few weeks.
See you later.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, everybody.